I When I was young, when I was a kid, I was how old was I? 1989, 1988. I guess my mom met this guy. My parents had a terrible marriage, and my dad was kind of an asshole. And when I'm an adult, I really understood, wow, why my mom did a lot of the stuff she did. I mean, so she met a guy in 1988, I think, because it was during the Olympics, or it was in 1989 because he had gone to the Olympics too. He was in TV production, and he went to the Olympics. And why is my hair doing that? Anyway, so she met him in 1989, and then we went down to Florida, me and my brother, to meet him. And good guy, really good guy. I wish part of me wishes that he was my dad. Because he was much more of a dad than my actual dad was. Really good guy, and very weird situation. My dad found out because my mom was. They were not. My parents weren't separated. My mom was just cheating. I guess. Just be blunt about it. But my dad was an asshole. So like as an adult, I don't blame her. When as a kid, I was like, "Oh, I'm so mad at you. Why'd you cheat? You broke our family up." But the fact is, as an adult, I'm like, "Oh my god, I can understand why you did what you did. He was a bad person." And this Ron guy was super nice and loving and caring, and like I said, he was a father to us. I remember the first time, not the first time, we went down there and we visited for like a week, and we met him. It was really cool. I think it was during the summer, and then I moved down there by myself, and we moved into a house in Tallahassee, Florida, and he was really cool. I remember he was like, "If you behave for your mom, I'll buy you this Nintendo game." What was the Nintendo game? Rad Racer? Is that no? Oh, I look it up, but it was this racing game, and he was like, "I know how to play it. I'm a cool guy." I think he was like 40 at the time. So so I lived there, and then my younger brother lived. We moved to a little city in Georgia, like across the state line from Tallahassee, called Cairo, Georgia, and I went to school there for sixth grade and seventh grade. But then at the end of seventh grade, my mom was like, "You guys really need to be back with your friends in Indiana, and I should get back with your dad," and because they had separated. And they got back together, and then didn't even sleep in the same bed. I don't think when I was in high school. I think they slept. I think they hated each other. I don't know, but there was no love in the relationship. But I remember in 1998 or 1999, I don't remember how, but like she got in touch with Ron, and he was doing a wrestling production. Like he was doing the video. He's a video technician. He did the video for like a wrestling thing in about 1998. I think I was with my girlfriend in Brazil, Indiana, and it was in Terre Haute, I believe. So we went and we saw him, and it was awesome. And I was like, "Yeah, I haven't seen you in years," and and it's hard because like I love the guy, and I missed him because he was more, like I said, he was more of a dad than my actual dad, and I think he cared about me more than my actual dad, and I feel like I cared about him more than my actual dad. So it was basically like my dad. It was rough because like I it was rough, leaving, not seeing your dad, for a number of years, and then you finally see him again. And I don't know, that was the only time I saw him. I saw him that once, and then when my mom died, I think he reached out to me when my mom died in 2006, and maybe I think it was 2007. He had found out that she died somehow. He was like, I asked my wife, who works for some detective agency or something, does something with some law firm, detective agency, blah blah blah. I asked her to look up your mom because I wanted to get in touch with her to see how she was. And I had her, she died. I'm really sorry. And he reached out to me, and I remember we emailed a few times, and then I don't know, just stuff happens, life happens, and I lost track because I was going through a lot of stuff with my dad at the time. He was being an asshole, but I was living at home at the time, and then I had to move out, and I didn't have any money, and it was all a nightmare. And I basically lost in contact with my real dad because he remarried immediately, like this crazy lady who just destroyed every relationship that he had with like me and my brothers and my aunts and uncles and my aunts and uncles that live next door, everything. So I somehow lost contact with him. And I remember he said, he was like, I work at TBS now, TBS, the TV channel in Atlanta. They lived in Atlanta. He was like, you should come out, because he knew that I worked at a TV station since 2003, PBS station. And he was like, you should come out and I'll show you around. You'll love it. It'd be awesome. And I lost contact and I feel like a fucking asshole because I think to myself, man, if I would have just like, what would my life have been like if, 2007, I had said, yeah, and maybe I would have moved to Atlanta. Maybe I would have not gone to the college I went to because I started college in 2008. Maybe I would have taken a completely different path in life, you know, maybe, who knows? And then, so we lost contact, and then we got in contact again, in touch again in 2020. I reached out, and I found him on LinkedIn, and I sent him a message, and hoping that he would see it, thinking he probably wouldn't. In my head, I'm like, is he still even alive? He's probably old. I think he was probably in his 70s by 2020, but he messaged back, and I wrote this novel to him. I was like, I'm sorry, I've written so much, basically a novel. He's like, no, send more novels. Love to hear from you. And he was like, I tried to reach out to your brother, but he pushed me away, and I totally understand. I'm not going to even try. But I'm glad you got in contact with me. I'm good to hear from you. I'm glad you're doing well in life, and you look like you got a lot of education on your LinkedIn. So you've done good, in terms of education. Good job for you. I'm really proud. Blah blah. And he called. Well, I gave him my phone number, and he called, and then like it got disconnected somehow, and I was in the car driving, and this was right before I lost my job at the job I had before this. I was being harassed by the brand new manager who, it was a nightmare too. I had bad luck. Okay. So I had lost my job, and then like I tried to get back in touch with him like later that month, and I couldn't get in touch with him. He didn't respond, and I left a voicemail, and he didn't respond to the text. And then for 4 years now, I've been thinking, I got to get in touch with this guy, and I've tried to find his phone number again, and I've tried to, because his number was disconnected. When I tried to call it, when I tried to text it, nothing happened. When I try to call now, it was like, oh, this Verizon number's been disconnected. And so like I tried to get in touch with him for the last 4 years. I finally today I was just like, you know what? He popped into my head. I was like, I really miss this guy. I really want to talk to him. I'm really upset that I didn't talk to him in 2020 because the call got disconnected when I was driving, and then like I went through a job loss, and I feel like it was my fault. Like I could have tried more to, you know, just say, hey, I'll call him, you know. Maybe it's hard for me sometimes. I don't know. Maybe I'm a fucking idiot. And then I'm also mad at myself because I'm like, 2007, I could have like, maybe I would have moved to Atlanta. I would have saw him all the time, you know? And I don't know. I mean, that's weird. Is that weird? Is that weird to say, yeah, I live near my dad? But he wasn't my dad, you know? But he kind of was. He was more of my dad than my actual dad. So, man, but I finally today, I'm like, I'm gung-ho, and I'm like looking on yellowpages.com. I'm Googling his name, and I remember he said that I looked at his LinkedIn, and I messaged him on LinkedIn because I totally forgot there was a LinkedIn message. And I messaged him like, I pray that you get this. Please call me. This is my phone number. Call me as soon as you get it, blah, blah, blah. Hope that you're doing well, etc. And he said in the message that he had married someone named Susan. So I look up his number, and I call a bunch of different numbers, and they're all disconnected. And I know what his address was, so I'm like, okay, this has to be the number, and they're all disconnected. I'm getting worried in my head. I'm thinking he told me he had like several heart attacks. He had emphysema, diabetes. He was getting kidney dialysis because he had kidney problems, and I'm panicking in my head today. Like I'm at work. I'm supposed to be working, but I'm not. I'm just like panicking, and I'm calling all these different numbers. Then I'm like, wait, his wife's name is Susan. So I look up Susan and his last name, and then I find a number that it's connected to the address that he had, and then I'm like, okay, it's gotta be her. So I'm like, I'm pretty introverted mostly. I feel like I'm a shy person. Like I don't like calling up people that I don't know and be like, hey, how's it going? So I'm like, but I'm gonna do this because I need to find his number and get in contact with him. So I call, and I'm like, hey, is this Susan person's last name? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, hey, are you married to Ron? And she's like, yeah, yeah. And I'm like, okay, well, this is awkward. I'm trying to get in touch with him. And in my head, I'm thinking she's probably thinks I'm a crazy person, like some kind of scam or who's calling her. And I was surprised that she even answered. And then it really worried me because it said the house that he had lived in in Marietta, Georgia, it said it had been sold in 2022. And then it said like her addresses were listed. It said Sarasota, Sarasota, Sarasota. So I guess she's from Sarasota. They met online apparently, and she was quite a bit younger, like 15 years younger. He told me that on LinkedIn, and so it said all these Sarasota addresses, and then like Marietta, Georgia, and it said, and then after that it said Sarasota again, and I was like, oh god, oh, why would you move back to Sarasota from living in Atlanta for or Marietta right outside Atlanta for so long? Because he's dead, and I'm thinking, no, he can't be dead. It's not dead. I mean, come on, I got his LinkedIn message right here, and I call and I'm like, oh, I'm trying to get in touch with Ron. Awkward, but he was like a family friend. I don't know how to explain it. But he was a family friend. He had like a relationship with my mom, and we were kind of like we lived with him for a little while. And she was like, "Okay, well, Ron passed away in September of 2020." And I'm like, "Okay, wow." Now, in my head, I'm just like, "Oh, I want to fucking punch myself in the face because I should have tried harder in 2020." Um, in the middle of 2020. I guess he died like a couple months after we talked on the phone for 2 seconds, and then it got disconnected. So I'm like, I should have tried harder um, to like, you know, even though I was going through a bunch of stuff and I was going through trying to find a new job and getting laid off from my job and or whatever it was that I quit because they were harassing me and I had no choice. But I wow, I it was just very awkward. I didn't know what to say to her, and I'm like, wow, okay. And she's like, oh, he had told me about you and your mom. I know all about you. And I was like, okay, well, and I should have said like he was a great guy, you know, but I just couldn't think, and I'm like, this is very awkward talking to this lady, and I don't want to say too much because she was like, I was like, I'm very sorry for your loss, and she's like, me too, I'm very sorry too. We were married for 25 years, and I was like, yeah, that's terrible. I really like the guy, and I should have said like, "Hey, man, he was a great dude. And I really loved him. I just want to let you know that he was awesome." And but and she was like, "Yeah, I think he has a carving of your name on his drawing board that my granddaughter uses to color on when she comes to visit." And I was like, "I think I might know what you're talking about. I think he had something like that, like a drawing board when I knew him and we were together, when we all lived together." And she's like, "Oh, maybe, yeah." And I was like, "That's really cool. I didn't know about that. That's awesome. It's my name's carved in it or something." He's like, "Yeah, it's right here." And I didn't know if she wanted to talk, and it's very awkward because like I was like, "I'll let you go. I'm sorry," and she could tell I was crying, I guess, and I was just shocked. She was like, "Ron passed away," and I'm like, "Oh my god," and now I'm like, God, I wish that in 2007 I don't even know how we lost touch, you know, but I remember he had said, "Come down to Atlanta," in 2007. That's what 17 years. So that would have been 17 years of life that I could have known this guy and been close to him. Maybe I would have moved to Atlanta. Maybe I would have got a job working in TBS or something like that because I had already worked in TV and he worked in TV. He could have got me a position. He was like pretty high up. He had worked in that industry for like 20, 30 years, maybe longer than that. Actually, probably 40, 50 years. Like, who knows? But yeah, I want to beat myself up now because I lost touch and I just, but I don't know. I don't know. I just like, my heart's broken and it's so weird. It's like so much death in my life. My mom died and I found her body. I was 26 and like that fucked me up. And then like I feel like because my mom was my link to all my aunts and uncles that we didn't see a lot. You know, we didn't have really close relationships with my aunts and uncles, but I loved them. You know, I had cool aunts and uncles on both my dad's side and my mom's side. Um, but yeah, wow, I'm just my heart's broken, and I don't even know I'm recording this. I just feel like my heart's broken, and I want to tell the world like how awesome this guy was and how much I feel like a fucking idiot because I wish in 2007, you know, I would have lost out on a lot of this great stuff in my life, you know, that happened since 2007. But also like again, I want to beat myself up because like what would it have been like to have a relationship with this guy for 17 years and like you know like yeah my dad's back in my life, you know, because I don't have a dad. My own dad died. I didn't cry. That was last year. I didn't cry for that. I was like, fuck him. He's an asshole. He was a jerk. He was a bad person. He never showed me any love or any kindness or compassion or anything. And then after my mom died, he turned into a demon and like basically said, "Oh, my crazy wife takes precedent over everyone." Like we didn't have a relationship, and he was okay with that. Oh my god, I don't know. So sad. When she said that, I was just like, man, because I was like, he can't be dead. There's no way. Not dead. He's fine. It's 2024. We got modern medicine. He's got a bunch of issues, but people don't die at 71 or two, whatever. I don't know. I don't even know how old he was. Maybe 75. But yeah, rest in peace. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry that in 2007 I didn't take you up on your offer to come. And I don't know how. Like I said, I don't know how I lost touch with him. But whatever it was probably my fault, and I just want to beat myself up for it. And I feel so low because of that. Because 17 years, I could have 17 years, you know, with my dad, guy who's better than my dad. I don't know. So if you have people in your life, you call them right now before it's too late, because you'll be like me and you'll find out that it's too fucking late, and you can't call them because you can't call heaven or hell, wherever the hell they are, or you can't call the cemetery. So call your family members or loved ones, and don't be afraid to have relationships with them, and don't let other things take precedent. And like if you lose touch with somebody, try to get back in touch with them as soon as you can, and don't let that relationship slip, because those are the most important things in life are the relationships that we have. And when you don't have them, what else do you have? You know that you've got nothing else really. You know you can have all the things in order, you can have millions of dollars, but if you don't have relationships, I feel like you got nothing, and you're going to be heartbroken like I am right now. So call your family members and tell them you love them right now.